What's going on, guys? Today we are going to be talking about 5 different character builds, all involving being a Gish. Now, we're going to go over what a Gish is, just in case you don't know. A Gish is essentially spell and sword put together to the test. It's someone who is usually using melee attacks or ranged attacks to and then they use spells to augment those attacks, or kind of the vice versa of that. And we are specifically going to be talking about how to do these builds with intelligence. Now, if you guys like this video, make sure to let me know, and we can also go ahead and do a similar thing for wisdom and charisma. So, when it comes to intelligence, I would say it's the in-between stat of charisma and wisdom for Gish builds, being that wisdom probably has the least amount of options and charisma definitely has the most amount of options. And for our purposes, we're going to be trying to make our build the least multi-ability score dependent that we can possibly make them. And the main classes or subclasses that are really get the most spell and sword abilities are going to be our artificer, our wizard, specifically blade singing, our profane soul blood hunter, our arcane trickster rogue, and our eldritch knight fighter, because all of these subclasses and classes use intelligence to cast their spells, and the artificer specifically lets us make melee attacks with our intelligence modifier for the armor and the battlesmith subclasses. So there's going to be a lot of armor and battlesmith in this video. And then for our races, there are other races that can work. I just wanted to pick out some good ones, especially because I didn't end up using all of these in the build. So we have our custom lineage and variant human, of course, the astral elves or Shatterkai, and then I have Gith Zerai, but especially the old previous before Morn Canaan Gith races, those are much better, both the Gith Yankee and the Gith Zerai there. You've got the Thrycreen, all of your elves, your Reborn, your Warforged, your Earth Genasi, and your Duragar would just be some of my personal suggestions. But yeah, let's just jump into it. Let's talk about our first build here. So for our first build, we're actually going to be starting off with the Astral Elf race. You can choose another race, but for this build, we really need to make sure that we have a race right off the bat that is going to allow us to have proficiency with a longbow. And because of the Astral Elf's Astral Trance, we're able to choose a skill or tool proficiency, a weapon or tool proficiency. Every time we finish a long rest, however, we're never going to change it out. It's always going to be the longbow for us, because this is very important. This character is going to be our Gish-based archer. And so when we move on to our class, we actually are going to be starting off by taking the Battlesmith Artificer. And the Battlesmith Artificer, they only get proficiency with simple weapons, so they're not going to get proficiency with the longbow, which is why we need to make sure we have a race that is going to give us our proficiency with that. Because right off the bat, we're actually going to go ahead and take 5 levels of Artificer, and the main reason for this being is we want to ensure that we are getting magical abilities and spells to make sure that we are very Gish-like, and also we are going to get our infusions and our subclass, and by choosing the Battlesmith Artificer, we can attack with our intelligence modifier as long as the weapon is magical, and by creating a magical longbow infusion, that's going to give us, we're going to be able to use our intelligence for our attacks with our longbow, which is kind of what we're going for here. So that's why, and when we get to 5th level, we actually get extra attack with our subclass. So that's the main reason that we are taking Battlesmith all the way up to level 5 right off the bat. So we can get extra attack, we get our intelligence modifier that we can use for our attacks, and we get a +1 longbow. As well as we are going to get our feat and things like our steel defender and all that stuff, which is super helpful, although not the goal of this build. Still very nice to have handy. And it's going to kick us off by getting our spell slots. So after that, we are going to take levels in fighter, and we're going to take 3 levels in fighter. And we're going to get all of our amazing fighting things, but for our fighting style, first level, we're going to go ahead and choose archery because we are a intelligence Gish based archer. So we also are going to get, our second winter, action surge, those great things, but we're also going to get at 3rd level our subclass, which is going to be arcane archer. Now, for our arcane shot options, these don't matter too much. I would personally just pick whichever one fits your character the best. But the best thing about the arcane archer is that for the saving throw shots, our shot DC is 8 plus proficiency plus intelligence modifier. So since intelligence modifier is already our main stat that we're going to be attacking with, these saving throws are going to be a lot better than most normal arcane archer players would have. So just pick whichever one fits your character best here. These shots are very good. They're going to augment our damage, give us a little bit more versatility in what we can do with our bow as well. So after we take our 3 levels in fighter, we're going to go ahead and we're actually going to jump to wizard here. And the reason we're jumping to wizard and not back to artificer or continuing fighter is to give us more spell slots. And we really want to do this so we can augment our damage even more, especially because the Battlesmith Artificer gets Branding Smite on their spell list. And as part of Branding Smite, it only specifies that the next time you hit a creature with a weapon attack before the spell ends, the weapon gleams with astral radiance as you strike. So this doesn't have to be a melee weapon attack. It can be a ranged weapon attack as long as it's a weapon attack, which is phenomenal for us. So that's one of the main reasons we get this spell on our artificer spell list, is that we're going to go wizard. I know. But we are actually going to go wizard, and we're going to take 4 levels of wizard. And at 2nd level, we're going to get our arcane tradition. And I decided to go school of evocation here. I think there are other ones that work, but I think a lot of our main damage spells were a damage dealer overall. So I think going school of evocation makes the most sense for us. So we are going to get our Evocation Savant, which basically lessens the time and money for evocation spells for us to copy into our spell book, as well as Sculpt Cells. Wow, Sculpt Spells. So beginning at 2nd level, you can create pockets of relative safety within effects of your evocation spells, and when you cast an evocation spell that affects other creatures, you can choose a number of them equal to 1 plus the spell's level, and the chosen creatures automatically succeed on their saves for the spell and take no damage if they would normally take half damage on a successful save, which is amazing. And I think it's just overall a really great ability, especially because the wizard subclass abilities, for the most part, they're helpful, but the subclasses aren't super strong in themselves because the wizard class is already so strong. And I think this is just a good one that will help us, especially since we're using a lot of evocation spells. But we also are going to get an ability score improvement. And here I would just bump your intelligence. The only feat that I would make sure that we take right off the bat is sharpshooter, because if you are any sort of arrow or long form weapon combatant, sharpshooter's amazing. So I would just take sharpshooter as your first feat, and then just try and get your intelligence boosted as high as you can as soon as possible. And the reason we didn't go custom lineage or variant human to get sharpshooter faster was just because the artificer doesn't get longbow proficiency right off the bat. So if you wanted to maybe start one level in Artificer and then take a level in Fighter to get that longbow proficiency sooner, that works too. You're just going to be delaying some of your other things by a level, but it's only one level, so it's not the biggest deal. Now, personally, I would also say that if you are taking this build beyond level 12, I would go probably just at least take one more level in Wizard to get your 3rd level spells, and then maybe one more level in Fighter, maybe not. But I'd probably just take mostly Wizard and Artificer levels, probably bouncing between the two, and do what you will there. But just remember, for our for our abilities, our stats, we want intelligence to be our highest stat, and we want to get that to 20 as soon as possible, because we're using that for our spell saves, our arcane shot saves, our intelligence, or our attacks, which are based off of our intelligence as long as we have our magical longbow on us, which we always should. So get that to 20 as soon as possible after you get Sharpshooter. Get Sharpshooter and then get that to 20. And then, honestly, just Constitution and Dexterity are probably great, and then do whatever you will with the other scores. So, yeah, that kind of finishes up for our Archer-based Gish build, and let's move on to our next one. Here, we're actually going to be talking about an Assassin kind of intelligence-based Gish build. Chose to go with Earth Genasi because they actually get a really cool ability with Merge with Stone. Because while they do know the Blade Ward cantrip, which usually is terrible, we get it as a bonus action, and we can cast it as a bonus action a number of times equal to our proficiency bonus, and we regain that when we finish a long rest, which I think is really great. It could be really helpful. And at 5th level, we also get Pass Without a Trace. And because we are trying to be very stealthy and sneaky for this assassin build, this is really helpful for us. And since we're not a full caster all the way, getting free castings of spells is really awesome. So we can just do this without a spell slot, which is phenomenal. Once again, we do have, for our classes here, we have the Artificer, and that's what we're going to be starting with. Also, one of the reasons we're starting with Artificer is because Artificer is giving us our best saving throw proficiencies in Intelligence and Constitution, and those are, for the most part, our most important stats, which is really why, like, starting with Artificer is really important because of those saving throws, and also it starts us off with a D8 hit die, and we still get things like cantrips and spell slots, so overall, it's very good. Very, 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 very good to start with. So here we want to get immediately to 3rd level so we can get our subclass. And for this, we're going to choose Armor. However, while I prefer Guardian most of the time, for this specific build, we actually want to choose the Infiltrator. And that is because, well, we do get a faster walking speed, and we get a little lightning launcher, which gives us a ranged attack, which is great. We also get advantage on our stealth checks, and even if the armor normally imposes disadvantage on those checks, we get advantage. Oh, sorry. The advantage and disadvantage cancel each other out. But, we, for this build, are actually going to be using light armor. And I know you're like, Ash, why would we use light armor with a armor build? That doesn't make any sense. Well, for now, we can still use our medium or heavy armor, but we still want to be as quiet as possible. But later we will be switching to light armor. And then we're going to go right up to 5th level here, just to get our extra attack for us. And once we get our extra attack at 5th level, as well as a feat, we are going to switch it up, and we are going to take some levels in Rogue. So we're going to take 3 levels in Rogue here, and this gets us a lot of things. We do get expertise, we get sneak attack, we get cunning action, If you're using the optional class features, you'll get steady aim. But when we get to 3rd level, we are going to choose our roguish archetype, and we're going to go with Arcane Trickster because this is going to give us more cantrips, more spell slots, which still uses our intelligence modifier. So all of our throws and saves, everything's the same. But we're also going to get, Mage Hand Ledgerman, which is awesome. This is personally one of my favorite abilities in the game. I just think it's really cool. So we get things that allow us to be sneakier. So like if you want to take expertise in stealth, and we also get sneak attack, which is allowing us to do more damage as well. So we have more damage, things to be sneakier, and more spells just by taking 3 levels in Rogue. So I think overall it's really great and definitely worth doing. So after we take those 3 levels in Rogue, then we are going to go to Wizard again. However, this time we are going to be taking the pinnacle of the Gish type character build, which is going to be our Blade Singing Wizard. So the big thing with Blade Singing is you get your Blade Song at 2nd level when you choose a subclass, which says that you can invoke an elven magic called the Blade Song provided you aren't wearing medium or heavy armor or using a shield, which means this is why, because of Blade Song, we are going to want to go to light armor, but I think overall it's worth it because intelligence, hopefully by this point, will already be at a +5. So you can use a bonus action to start our Blade Song. It lasts for 1 minute and it ends early if we're incapacitated, or if we don any of the things that it restricts, like heavy armor or a shield. And while it's active, we gain a bonus to our AC equal to intelligence, which is great. So that'll help augment us from having to go down in our armor class. We also get an increased walking speed. So if we have light armor and our infiltrator armor model, then that's 15 extra feet of movement. Plus we also have cunning action. And we have advantage on acrobatics checks, which is also phenomenal. And then we gain a bonus to any con save to maintain our concentration on a spell, and it equals our intelligence modifier, which is great. So we get just so many things from this Blade Song, and we're also going to have cantrips like Booming Blade, Green Flame Blade, all of that amazing stuff to help augment our damage even more. And overall, I think this is a fun kind of different way to look at doing an assassin if you want to play a very tactical or very smart assassin. Oh, also, sorry, for our last 2 levels, we're just going to take 2 more levels in Artificer because we're going to get Tool Expertise and Flash of Genius. So that means we don't have to use one of our expertises on our Thieves tools if we don't want to. And it's also going to up our spell level, so we'll get 2nd level spells and more spell slots overall. So for Artificer, yeah, I forgot to mention that. But yeah, that's kind of going to be our assassin build. Overall, I think this build is very good at being quiet, and they're going to prioritize their intelligence and then their dexterity the most, followed by their constitution, and then however else you want to do your ability score spread. If we're using point buy, it's, it makes it less stressful than if you wanted to do this build without just trying to focus on your intelligence. Like if you wanted to play a rogue blade singer, you can do that, but then you're going to need intelligence and dexterity. Now you really just need intelligence with a semi-okay dexterity, and you can still be really sneaky and proficient at what you're doing, which I think is really cool. For our 3rd build, this build is actually going to be a tank-based build, which I'm pretty excited about. I think I had some cool ideas, We're going to be playing a half-elf. I just chose Drow half-elf because they get a couple extra spells, which is great for us. But the main reason we're playing them is because, we get that juicy +4 instead of the maximum of +3 of the other races, which is great. So we can add a +2 and then a +1 and +1 to our stats, which is phenomenal. So that's kind of the main reason here. And then for our class, we're going to be starting off Armorer once again. When we hit 3rd level and we get to pick our Arcane Armor model, I should say, we don't pick the, I mean, I guess we do pick the armor. Anyway, we're going to be picking the Guardian model. However, once again, we're going to be doing a weird thing where we want to be a Guardian armorer in light armor. I know, it's kind of weird, but I think overall it'll be very beneficial as we continue on with the build. And now this is kind of your choice here of whether you want to get a feat next, or if you really want to continue on and get to the good chunk of what we're doing with this build. But personally, I would probably try and maybe, there's a couple options you can go with this build, I should say. So I would stick at level 3 with armor and then go right into blade singing, or go up to level 5 in armorer, get extra attack, and then go into blade singing and only take 2 levels in wizard. However, when you're building this character up, they may not be the most optimal to play until you are able to get to a little bit of higher levels. But we're doing the level 12 analysis, not the pre-level analyses. So, but that's just a fair warning on this character. But once you get into a little bit higher levels, I think they would be very, very good at what they do. So after we take our 3 levels, we are going to take blade or wizard, and then at 2nd level we're going to get, of course, blade singing. And I read this very carefully because I wanted to make sure that I was reading this right. So for blade singing, okay, it says that it ends early if we're incapacitated, if we don medium or heavy armor or a shield, or if we use 2 hands to make an attack with a weapon. So, our thunder gauntlets from the armorer, you have a gauntlet on each hand. This is how I would rule it as a DM. If you are using your gauntlets to punch something, you are not holding a weapon with 2 hands or making an attack with 2. It's a 1-arm punch. You might be able to do a pop with both hands, but those are individual attacks. So I would rule it, you can totally keep the blade song up while you're using your thunder gauntlets to punch things. That's how I see it, which also frees up our hands to do verbal, somatic, material components, all that kind of stuff. I mean, verbal, you don't do with your hands, you do with your mouth, but you know what I mean. So yeah, that's my interpretation of it. And we are actually going to go 6 levels for blade singing right off the bat, because now we can use our intelligence modifier when we're using our gauntlets, which is what we're going to be attacking with most of the time. We can also use things like our green flame blade, booming blade, in our extra attack with the blade singing extra attack, because we can use a cantrip in place of one of those attacks, which is really great. It's phenomenal. So yeah, and then we're also going to get our 3rd level spells, which are super powerful. It's kind of the big power jump in the game is when player characters tend to get those 3rd level spells. So that's really great. And for us, we're going to have even more spell slots than 3rd level because of our armor levels. So yeah. And then after we take those 6 levels in wizard, then we are going to take 2 levels in Twilight Cleric, and you're probably asking why. Well, the goal of this build is to get enemies to attack us and not our allies. So by being a armor and by being a guardian, we get a taunt ability, which gives enemies disadvantage from attacking other people except ourselves. But unfortunately, we're also a wizard, which means that our hit points, our hit die, aren't the best. And Twilight Cleric gets this awesome feature. Well, of course, there's Twilight Cleric gets so many awesome features because we get Eyes of the Night, and Vigilant, it's so good. Anyway, But we do get our channel divinity at 2nd level, which is our Twilight Sanctuary, which is really what we want here. So as an action, we present our holy symbol, and a sphere of twilight emanates from you. The sphere is centered on you and has a 30-foot radius and is filled with dim light. The sphere moves with you and lasts for 1 minute or until you're incapacitated or to die. And whenever a creature, including you, ends its turn in the sphere, you can grant that creature one of those benefits. So we can grant it 10 temp hit points equal to 1d6 plus cleric level. So that would only be 1d6 plus 2 for us, but still. And we end 1 effect on it causing to be charmed or frightened, which is phenomenal. And for us, as long as we end our turn in our own sphere, then we're just granting ourselves temp HP every turn. And if we're encouraging our enemies to attack us, then getting this temporary HP is really great. Unfortunately, we do also get temporary HP from being in armor, but that temp HP requires a bonus action, and depending on how much damage we're taking, you can make it work. You can make it work for sure. And because it's like, say if you end your turn, and then you take damage, then you use a bonus action to give yourself more temp HP, and then you move away from someone, provoke an opportunity attack on yourself, and that does more damage, and then but you still end your turn in the sphere again, then that's a lot of temporary HP. So like, we do have a lot of ways to keep ourselves alive. Plus, by being an artificer, we also do get access to cure wounds, so we can use those kind of spells to keep ourselves up and keep the enemies from attacking our allies and have their attention focused on us. So that is kind of the premise of this tank build. It's a little wonky, but I think it really works, and I think it's cool thematically as well. Plus, we're going to have our Blade Song up, which by the time, this character is, hopefully our intelligence is +5, so that's a +5 to our AC. So it's going to be good. So for our stats, oh, I don't know why this is like this. Anyway, because you are going to need, if you're using point buy, this character might be a little harder to make work, but you still can definitely do it. Personally, I would probably just tank your charisma here, and then maybe take your constitution down to a 13 so you can get your wisdom to a 13, because we are going to be using dexterity for our armor class, and we're all about not getting hit instead of like, we have hit points, like a lot of temporary HP to soak through damage, but we still would rather not just be hit at all. You know what I mean? Because we're going to have our Blade Song armor bonus, plus we are going to have access to the shield spell. So overall, that'll be a +10 to our AC, plus all the temporary HP. It's kind of good. I think it's kind of good. Anyway. So yeah, that's going to be our spread for this character, Rooney. But yeah, so that's the tank. Let's move on to our next character build. This build's a little bit crazy. Aren't they all, though? Aren't they all? So we have now, wait. Okay. So this build is actually a little bit crazy. We're going to make a pole arm intelligence-based Gish character. And you're like, what? I'm like, I know, you'll see. Anyway, we're going to start with a custom lineage here, and the main reason is to, wow, if I could hit the right button, is to give ourselves a feat, being pole arm master. So this is going to give us our bonus action melee attack, as well as, we provoke opportunity attacks when people enter our reach. So it's very good. Polearm's pretty great. And I debated how I was going to do this, but we are going to start off with 1 level in Artificer. And then after that, so we're going to take our first level in Artificer, so we get our intelligence constitution saves, and we get our spells, so we're going to have like some cantrips and stuff we can use and all that kind of stuff. But then we do want to take right after 1 level in fighter, so that way we can get proficiency with the pole arms that, we spent our whole racial feat trying to get. I know. It's a mess, but we'll get there. You'll understand. So now we're a level 2 character, and after that, we're going to go back to Artificer, and we're not just going to go until we get to 5 levels of Artificer, and we'll be a 6th level character at that point. So we're going to get our infusions and all that kind of stuff, and we are going to, for our subclass, be a Battlesmith Artificer. So we are going to, whatever weapon we are using that is a polearm, the goal here is we're going to be using a polearm. So like if you're using a glaive or a halberd, one of our infusions is going to be create magical weapon. So that way we can have a +1, and that's going to give us our attack rolls with our intelligence modifier for that weapon, which is phenomenal. So we're also going to get extra attack, at 6th level instead of 5th, but it's okay. And we are also going to get a feat as well. And for that, Great Weapon Master is probably the way you want to go here. It depends on if you rolled for stats or if you're using point buy. However, Great Weapon Master is probably our best bet unless you really need to boost your intelligence. But the nice thing is we just need intelligence. So hopefully you'll be able to get that pretty high already. Since you can kind of dump like a lot of your other stats, they don't really need to be that high for the most part. You probably want your constitution high. And maybe like your dexterity, but you definitely just intelligence and constitution for the most part. So this is going to give us our -5 penalty to the attack roll, but if it hits, we get a +10 flat damage to the roll, which is really, really good. And it's just one of the best feats in the game for melee combatants. It's almost like a must-have if you're using any sort of great weapon. And we are, since we will be using a ranged, heavy, 2-handed weapon. Not ranged, but reach, sorry. So, and after we get all those levels, we are actually going to go back to fighter, take another level in fighter. So we're going to get our second win and our action surge. And for our martial archetype, we are going to talk about, or take one of the only ones that we haven't yet, of the ones we talked about at the beginning of the video, which is our Eldritch Knight, which is going to give us more spell casting, which that's what we're trying to, help us to do more damage. But we're also going to get Weapon Bond, which is pretty cool. So at 3rd level, we learn a ritual that creates a magical bond between yourself and one weapon. You can perform the ritual over the course of an hour, which can be done during a short rest. The weapon must be within your reach throughout the ritual at the conclusion of which you touch the weapon and forge the bond. So once we've bonded with our weapon, we cannot be disarmed unless we're incapacitated, and if the weapon is on the same plane of existence, we can summon that weapon as a bonus action on our turn, causing it to teleport instantly to our hand. And we can have up to 2 bonded weapons, but can only summon 1 at a time with a bonus action, and if you attempt to bond to a 3rd weapon, then the bond breaks with one of the other 2, which is really great. So this makes us feel even more magical, especially since we're using our intelligence for our attack, so it's like, ooh, humana mind powers, Anyway, we're going to take up to 4 levels in fighter, so then we are also going to get another feat. I went with Fey Touched here, because it's going to let us increase our intelligence, which is what we're going to be attacking with. And we can also choose a spell, one of those being Compelled Duel, which I don't believe we actually get access to on any of our spell lists, which is an amazing spell. While it is concentration, it can get enemies away from our allies and make sure that they come fight us instead. It is a bonus action to cast as well, so it's pretty great. And we can cast it once without a spell slot by taking it from this feat, which is phenomenal. So we are then going to take levels in an unofficial class technically, but I would low-key kind of call it official. But if you don't allow blood hunters at your table, I would probably just continue taking artificer levels, or maybe a couple, instead of taking blood hunter, go wizard. But yeah, so for us, we're going to be taking blood hunter, and we are going to get our blood maledict, blood curses, and fighting style. And I just chose great weapon fighting here. It's going to help us do a little bit more damage. And we get our crimson right. We get blood hunter gives you so much stuff. And the main reason I chose blood hunter is because by 3rd level, we are going to get to choose our subclass, and you could take the Order of the Profane Soul, which is going to give us more spells, and we can use our intelligence modifier to cast spells. And I just thought it was really cool thematically, because maybe if you're an artificer and you're experimenting on yourself and your weapons, then like instead of like you take a darker turn, like a darker path, and it leads more towards blood hunter, and you make like a pact or whatever. And I think it's cool. I just thought it was cool, if I'm being honest. I just thought it was cool, and we can do more damage. So it was cool and more damage. That's my reasons, okay? All right. Look. But we do get really great spells that we can choose that aren't available, because we get the access to the warlock spell list, but we can use our intelligence modifier for the warlock spells instead of charisma, which is great. So we can get Eldritch Blast, and Armor of Agathis and Arms of Hadar, which are very cool warlock spells just to have, especially because we don't have that many spell slots. This Gish build is the least Gish, like the least spell focused and the most melee focused out of all the builds we've done today. So I think, having more melee focused spells that are good no matter what level you cast them, and give us a defensive and an offensive benefit, are really great for us. But yeah, so that's this build that happened, that you're fighting things with pole arms while using your intelligence modifier to hit things, which is cool. We made it work. We did it. So for our last build, we are going to be starting with the race, or race is because it's Githyanki and Githzerai, but that led to the Gish coining of the term Gish itself. So I chose the Githyanki for this because they get astral knowledge just like the astral elf, which is amazing, so we can get, a certain weapon or and an extra proficiency. But we also get the mage hand cantrip, and it's invisible, similar to the arcane trickster. And we get the jump spell, which is fine, but we do also get Misty Step, which is nice, and it's great because we can cast it once without a spell slot. And same thing with jump, which I think not having to use a resource to cast jump on yourself actually makes it a lot more viable. And because you're not using any resources, you just have it, and you just can like jump without using a important spell slot, So yeah. We also get like resistance to psychic damage as well, which is pretty cool. So here we go. This is it. This is our traditional Gish. This is like, when I think of Gish, this is what I think of. This is the main thing I think of. However, for this, I decided to optimize it a little bit more and not just take Blade Singer all the way through. The reason we're starting off Artificer is because, again, we get those awesome intelligence and constitution saving throw proficiencies. Plus, by being a battlesmith at level 3, we do get the Steel Defender, which, while it's not like a huge help, it is a pretty cool, he's a great little guy to have, or I should say big guy, medium guy? I guess it depends. Anyway, we're also going to be able to use our infusions to create those magical weapons, so we can attack with our intelligence modifier. So everything is concentrated on our intelligence modifier instead of like needing our dexterity and our intelligence. We can just focus on our intelligence. While dexterity is great, you know, we can still have like maybe just like a 14, even a 13 dexterity and still be a really efficient character. So that's why I was like, this is great. It gives us a lot of amazing things. And we also get, um, oh, also being a battlesmith, we automatically get shield as well added to our spell list. So we always have shield prepared at 3rd level, which is great for us because that high AC is very important. But not as important as our intelligence modifier because after we take our 3 levels in battlesmith, you know it, you love it. It's wizardy wonder time. And the reason there's been so much wizard and artificer in this video is because wizard is the only full caster intelligence class, and artificer is the only half caster intelligence class, but it's also the only way to be able to attack with your intelligence modifier. So that's why there's been so much in this video, because the other classes that you've seen have probably either only been tertiary casters or quad casters, like whatever the fourth, it's like fourth of the, anyway, you know. So yeah. But that's why I said this video is just focusing on intelligence. If you want to see wisdom and charisma, make sure you let me know down in the comments below. So we get all our wizardy wonderful stuff at level 1, but what we're really after is our level 2 feature where we get our training in war and song and our blade song, the biggest feature for us. So we are going to get a cantrip formulas. I don't know why I said that. So we are also going to stick with wizard until the end of our character build. So we're going to take 9 levels in wizard. So at 6th level, we're going to get our special extra attack, which is going to be 9th level for us, which does kind of suck. But the nice thing is we're going to have cantrips like booming blade and green flame blade to help offset those a little bit. And also we're still a wizard. We can pack a punch. But that means we can use green flame blade and then also regular attack on top of it, all using our intelligence modifier, which is phenomenal. And then we also are going to stay here until we get a feat. I just took skill expert. It doesn't really matter. I would just take whatever's going to help your character do their job the best. You know, if you need a half feat to round out your intelligence, or if you need to boost some scores as well, do that. Because I think at 4th level, I just went with telepathic. So do whatever is best for you. Especially you want to get that intelligence to 20 as soon as possible, ASAP. 20 intelligence as soon as you can. But as a level 9 wizard, we are going to be getting all the way up to our 5th level spells, which is great. So we get all the way up to 5th level spells, but we still get all the melee benefits of being a blade singer, plus the big intelligence boost. Plus we have proficiency in our constitution saves as well, which is going to help with concentration, especially because we're going to be in the thick of things. It's honestly great. In terms of power level, just right off the bat, this is a very powerful character, and because we only have 3 levels in Artificer, if we went up to level 20 with this character, then we would still get to choose our 9th level spells at 17th level, which is phenomenal. I think this is a super powerful character. If you take the Artificer levels, it may take a little bit longer for your character to come fully online, but I think it's worth it in the end. Or if you just want to start with 1 level Artificer and then go until you get 6 levels of Blade Singing Wizard, so you'll be at 7th level, and then take the other 2 Artificer levels, then that also works. There's other ways to do this, but yeah, for our abilities, just intelligence is the most important, followed up by constitution and dexterity, probably being tied. Maybe dexterity is a little more important than con, but yeah, do what you will. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you liked me talking about Gishes. Gishes, it's probably my favorite play style. Those are my favorite. These are my favorite characters to make and kind of play. I love spell sword combos. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful and awesome rest of your day. And don't forget to subscribe and maybe like, but definitely subscribe. Yeah, thank you. Bye.